This training will be using Civil 3D 2018, and I'll be going over profiles and cross sections. So this is the Maryland training session number 5. In order to create a profile, you have to have an alignment. Creating an alignment is one of the first steps in showing your profiles. You can first draw the alignment as a polyline and then create the name alignment from that geometry. For even greater control, you can create an alignment object using alignment layout tools. Just gives you a little bit more options. You can also make edits to alignments using grips or the other commands on the alignment layout tools toolbar while automatically maintaining tangency between the alignment components. You can create alignment as a combination of lines, curves, and spirals that are viewed as one object. Alignments can be standalone objects or the parent object of profiles, sections, and corridors. If you edit an alignment, the changes are automatically reflected in any related object. This is what's really great with Civil 3D is that once you create an alignment to your surface, you can actually, in your profile, once you create your profile view, you'll be able to add existing ground, proposed ground, as built, whatever surfaces that you create, you can show them on these different profile views based off of that alignment that you create. So it's a very useful tool. First thing you have to do is create a surface. So you have to work off of a surface in order to create an alignment and show a profile view. So back in training session number 4, I went over surfaces and how to create an existing ground surface and also a proposed ground surface. If you haven't done so, please do that prior to moving forward with this training. Once you have your surface completed, you can now create an alignment. There's a couple different ways of creating an alignment, and I'll go over this in Civil 3D too. You can draw a polyline on any layer that you want to, and then you can change it to the existing alignment layer. Or you can go into your tool palettes, if you like to use tool palettes, grab existing alignment in your tool palettes, drag it over, and it'll already be on that existing alignment layer. And the third option is you can open up your alignment layout tools and it'll prompt you to start your alignment that way. It just gives you a little bit more options. Once you draw your polyline, you'll need to make an alignment. So you'll go to the Home tab under Alignment, Create Alignment from Objects. Select the polyline that you just created, hit Enter. Then you'll be prompted to change the direction of the polyline. As shown here, there's a little error that shows up, but you can type in R for reversing that if you want to reverse that polyline. This is what you'll see. There's several different boxes in here that you'll have to take note of. The first one is naming your alignment. This is pretty important because the way the profiles are set up behind the scenes, the profile title is based off of what you're naming your alignment. So keep that in mind when you're doing alignments, and we'll go through Prospector too, where it'll actually show all your different alignments, so you can keep them, pretty much, in an orderly fashion, if you will, as you create your alignments. There's different types of alignments. The one we'll show here is a center line, and then if you want to give it an actual description, you could. If you wanted to change a starting station, you also could do that, which is shown here. But the general information that we're going to go over, the site, we're not going to mess with a site. The style, so there's different styles that you can select, and that basically means, how it's going to be displayed. We'll just use alignment line, and then the layer. So whenever you drew it on, it's going to pull up whatever layer that is, so an existing alignment layer it was drawn on. If you actually drew it on an incorrect layer, you can change it here. The label set, it defaults, the label will be 150-foot stations perpendicular to alignment. If you want to change that, you can do that. One thing you take note here, the default is having this checked as add curves between tangents and what the actual radius is. Just keep in mind, if you're running a pipeline that has 90s, if you put this alignment on and it has the curves between the tangents checked, it's actually going to put a radius around there based off of the whatever two grips are. It's going to default a default radius of 200 foot within those two, or it could be less, or it could be more. I always had that unchecked most of the time, unless I really need those tangents, but majority of the time, I'm running an alignment based off of, point A to point B. Most of the time it's a straight line, but when you are doing like a water supply line or something like that, you might have 90s and T's and things like that. So just keep that in mind that you can check that on and off. Another thing is erase existing entities. So when you actually draw that polyline and you're actually created it into an alignment, that's what we're doing now. We're creating it into an alignment. If you want that existing line to be erased, then you can check that and it'll erase that polyline. Or if you have it unchecked, it'll actually keep both of those polylines. So you can show the polyline and also the alignment. It's just something that you can have, checked or not checked. My preference between erasing existing entities, it all depends on what you want to show. So that's just a user preference there. So we just called it centerline waterway main. Type is centerline, and some of the general criteria, again, following what the previous slide was. And on this one, I do have add curves between tangents, erase existing entities, go ahead and click OK. And you'll notice that after that's done, there's alignment starting at 0, continuing all the way to 7 plus 37, I believe. But it shows your staging. And you'll notice that each one of these angles, because our polyline was drawn with no tangents, since we had this selected add curves between tangents, that's where that comes from. So keep in mind, if you're doing pipeline or anything that doesn't have tangents, it's going to give you a false length, if you will. So this length is actually shorter because there's a tangent there versus what you're actually putting in. So just keep that in mind. If you still need to reverse the direction of the alignment, you can actually type in the command line reverse alignment direction, and you can select whatever alignment you want to reverse, and it'll actually reverse that alignment. So don't feel as though the first time when it asks you, do you want to reverse this alignment, and after the fact, you can actually reverse it. So we'll go ahead and open up Civil 3D now and kind of go over these steps to create this in alignment. All right, now I have Civil 3D open, and I just have drawn in here under the annotation layer that same alignment line that was shown in the PowerPoint. So a couple different ways, again, of making this into an alignment. So you can select the actual polyline that you've created, come up to the Home tab, Alignment, create alignment from objects, select your object, and again, it asks you if you want to reverse it or not. So it's showing the direction that it's going now. If I type in reverse, it's going to reverse it. Hit enter to accept it. Brings up the splash window. Give it a name. So an example, we use centerline waterway main. Actually, I think I spelled it out. So the different type, you can do an offset and a centerline. That's the two that I would recommend using, or that I've used. So in this case, we're just going to do centerline. If I wanted to put a description, I could. Site, again, none. So with the alignment style, it's alignment line. If you go in here, you can just click on it and it tells you exactly what it's doing. Displays lines and curves along the alignment as a line with a center line type pattern. Line and curve extensions are also shown in the alignment places on the layer existing alignment. So we just keep the alignment style set as alignment line. You can change the existing alignment layer if needed to, but it's going to put it on existing alignment layer automatically. Alignment label set. So this is basically asking you, how do you want to label your alignment? You can do a parallel, or you can do a perpendicular, or you can do a no display. So the default is major, perpendicular, minor, 150. Again, you can add curves between tangents and also erase the existing entities. So all the work that we're going to do on our alignments are basically on this first general tab and not getting into the design criteria. Go ahead, click OK, and you'll see automatically it labels everything at 100-foot stations, and then you have your tick marks at every 50 feet between those, and there's your tangent in between your actual line, and if you select it, it puts it on the existing alignment layer. So that's one way of creating an alignment. Another way of creating an alignment is you can go to an alignment creation tools, call your alignment, center line, waterway, main. We'll keep everything the same. Go ahead and click OK. And what it does, it brings up another window where you can actually just start drafting your polyline or your alignment. So alignment tools just gives you options of basically putting in polylines. So you have all these different options of putting in these polylines. Tangents with no curves, tangent with curves. So if I want to do tangent with curves, I could just start here at my line, and if you already had this drawn, you can just follow that line, hit enter, and we can move these. Now you'll notice that I started here and I went that way. The previous one went from 0 to 0 to this way. You can type in reverse alignment, direction, select your alignment. Warning will pop up saying that reversing the alignment will basically change your stationing, and it's just basically telling you it's going to change. So if you do that in the beginning, it's fine, but if you do it in the middle of designing and you have your profiles done, sometimes it could get a little tricky. So make sure you know the direction that you're putting your alignment in, starting at the bottom, going to the top, or vice versa. So that's another way of creating an alignment. So the next way I'll show you is the tool palettes under general drafting. Alignment lines existing, if I just select that, it's already on my existing alignment layer. I can just start drafting my alignment line. And again, and then when you're done, so all that's doing is actually drawing the polyline on the existing alignment layer. That's all it's doing. You now still have to go through the alignment, create alignment from objects, select that alignment that you just created, and then again, call it a name, center line, waterway main. Go through all the same things that we went through before. And in this instance, I'm going to take the curves out, and I'm not going to erase the existing entities. Go ahead and click OK. So now you'll notice that it follows that specific line. And you'll notice below that, I still have my polyline. So if I wanted to turn off my existing alignment, you'll notice that under here, I still have that polyline I drew. So now we'll go over what you'll see in the Prospector tab of the tool space when you created your alignment. So under your drawing name, and then there'll be an actual heading called Alignments, and then Centerline Alignments. Here's all the different alignments that you could choose, and we chose a centerline alignment. It'll have our centerline waterway main, and then if you right-click on that, there's more properties that you can go into. And now if we have our Prospector open, here's the name of my drawing, Profile Start. And if you go into Prospector, here's the name of my drawing, Profile Start. And if you go down to alignments, there's all the different alignment types. And you'll notice there's a plus sign here, so you can expand that. So if you right-click Properties, again, the information, you can change some of your information here again. You wanted to start and end elevation, you can do some masking, how the intersections happen, design criteria. Now, one thing I will say that I get a lot of questions on is check for tangency between elements. And what that's for is when you're creating a road and the tangency, make sure that you can drive a vehicle around that. So if you don't want those exclamation points to come up on your alignment, just go ahead and uncheck that. Go ahead and click apply. But if you're already unchecked the tangent, and when you create the alignment, you won't have to worry about that. But if you haven't, and you have it checked, creating those tangents, a lot of times you'll see a little exclamation point come up. It's not a big deal, but it's something that you want to keep aware of. So now, once you have your alignment made, it's time to make an actual profile view. Profiles. So what is a profile? The main purpose of a profile is to show surface elevations along a horizontal alignment. Use profiles to visualize the terrain along a route of interest or across a particular region. There are several types of profiles: surface, layout, superimposed, quick, and corridors. Surface profile often is called an existing ground profile, is extracted from a surface showing the changes in elevation along a particular route. So that's what we've created the alignment for. A layout profile, by contrast, is a designed object that shows the proposed elevation changes to be constructed. This is often called like a finished grade profile and is typically used for a roadway or other graded sites, and maybe it might be for a waterway if we created a waterway corridor. A corridor profile is created from a corridor feature line, such as an edge of pavement. This profile is displayed on the profile view of the baseline alignment from which it is derived. Layout profiles are two types of curves: crest curves and sag curves. We won't get too much into the layout profiles of the curves, but we will get into the superimposed profile, which is a profile of an alignment which is superimposed onto a profile view of different alignments. So these profiles are always dynamic and update when changes are made in the originating profile/alignment. So we will go over this because this is a nice feature. If you have shot the center line of an existing gully of your waterway and you shot the center line of your proposed waterway, you want to show maybe if you have to do any filling on that gully in order to put your waterway in, or you don't want to do any filling, you want to have your center line of waterway below the existing cut. A quick profile is a temporary object that shows the elevations along an existing line or series of selected points. It doesn't get saved. It's just something visually that you can do really quick just to show it. Profile object relationships. So a profile object is a child of a horizontal alignment. So to understand this, the horizontal alignment must exist to define the route of a profile across the terrain. So once you edit that horizontal alignment and you create a surface profile, it'll actually update that profile automatically, so it's considered dynamic. Now, you can turn that dynamic off, which I'm not sure why you would want to, but you can do that. A profile view object is also dependent on a horizontal alignment. The length of the alignment can control the horizontal extent of the profile view grid, and alignment stationing controls the annotation of horizontal axis. The vertical extents of the profile have an optional relationship with one of the profiles in the profile view. You can set all these different values within the profile view styles, and we'll go over that. But just keep in mind that these are just the relationships that you have between the alignment and the profiles themselves. And the profile view can contain projected objects such as points, feature lines, or AutoCAD blocks. These objects exist in a plan view and are projected into a profile view so that you can visualize them in relation to a profile. So you can actually stick in catch basins, pipe networks, things like that into your profile view from your plan view. So it has a lot of dynamic relationships with profiles based off of your plan view and your alignments and such. So the first step to create a profile from your alignment, you first obviously have to have an alignment that you created, and you'll go to your home screen, and you'll notice on the home screen that there's a box labeled profile, and there's some options here. And what we're going to use is create surface profile, but you can also do the create superimposed and the profile from corridor. And there's a quick profile also. But these are the three that are used most often. So to create the profile from your alignment, go to the home, profile, create surface profile, and then a window will pop up. Here's your alignment. So if you had multiple alignments, you can actually select the alignment that you want to create that profile view from. In this case, it's Centerline of Waterway Main. And here you can select the surfaces that you want to have displayed in that profile. It's showing 3 on this one because that's 3 surfaces that we have set up in the templates: as built, existing ground, and proposed surface. You can select all of those if you want to, or you can just select the one that you want to have the existing ground on. Now you can come back into the profile and select, if you actually, once you create, you can come back into the profile view and add proposed surface or an as-built surface. So this just gives you an option. If you had all of them there, you can select them all. But in most cases, you're just going to select the existing ground. This shows the length of the actual sample line. So in this case, it's going from 0 plus 0, 0 to 7 plus 11. Click Add. Once you click Add, it's going to add the actual information from what surface that you chose down here on the profile list. So it's telling you what the name is, what the data source is existing ground, update mode dynamic. So you could change that if you wanted to. So if you change something in model space, it's going to update your profile automatically based off of those changes. Style, original ground, so that's just the style of the line that's going to be drawn. And it's telling you what the start and it's telling you the start and end station, and then the elevation within that length of the alignment, which is going from 96 to 109. One thing I will let you know, if you do notice that this elevation here is minimum 0, maximum 0, you know you selected the incorrect surface or you don't have any surface data. So just keep that in mind, that you want to make sure that there's actually data in here and it's the correct data that you selected. Go ahead and click Draw and Profile View. And it'll come up with another window. So to create the Profile View General tab, you're going to select the alignment again. You can name the profile. So this is all you're doing is basically the profile view name. So A to A prime, centerline of waterway. We're going to name that. And again, keep in mind that you're naming the profile. You're not actually, it's not the heading or the title of the profile view. The profile view title is based off of the actual alignment name. So when we get to this point, you'll notice that centerline of waterway main will actually be the title of your profile. Profile view name is just a way that you can organize your profiles. Then you're going to go ahead and select your scale. And the recommendation on these is that in the templates, we've created all the profile view styles that have grid. All the profile view styles that have grid associated with them are ones Jacob and I have updated. If you want to use the ones from National, you can most certainly pull those in, but it doesn't have some of the stuff that is required, meaning that it doesn't show the scale. There's ways of doing that, but I won't get into that right now. So select your profile view style, go ahead and click next. Station range, again, you can change this. I always like to end it on an even number, so go a little bit further. And the reason being, if you end on that 7 plus 27, it's going to say, maybe it's going to label at 700. And then at the end, it's going to label the ending station at 727, and then you'll have text over top of each other. So I always like to just push it out to an even number. Go ahead and click next. Profile view height, you can specify, what the minimum and maximum, and it tells you exactly, what the minimum and maximum elevations are. You can adjust that up and down to what you want. Split the profile view, we'll go over that later on. So we're not going to mess with that now. And then profile display options goes over a list of what you've just selected in all those different headings. And if you like everything you see, go ahead and click next. Data bands, there are data band sets that are set up, meaning that it'll display information on the bottom of your profile or the top of your profile. So if you have a proposed elevation and an existing elevation, you can have a band set that would show that. But I'm not going to show that on this example, but you do have the options of doing that. And again, here's another option that you can do profile hatch options. So you can do a cut area, a fill area, or you can have multiple boundaries that you can show the different areas to be filled. So go ahead and create profile view. So this is what it will look like once it's completed in model space. So I'll go ahead and open up CAD and we'll go over those steps. So again, we have our alignment going from 0 to 734. It's a little bit different than the example that's on the PowerPoint. All right, so we have our alignment that's drawn. Now we want to show that in a profile view. So on the Home tab, Profile, Create Surface Profile. And again, if you had multiple alignments, you can hit the down arrow and select what alignment you want to choose. And again, we only have existing ground data, so we want to select that. So make sure you have your existing ground set. Make this a little bigger so we can see. Existing ground. This is the sample line. Go ahead and hit add. And one thing to notice, as I explained in the PowerPoint, check and make sure that the elevations are actually there. Again, if you wanted to make this static, you could. If you wanted to change the type, you could. You can change the style. So in this case, it's original ground. So if you were actually doing an as-built or proposed, you could do a future ground or an as-built profile style. So this is OGND, original ground. If you like everything here, go ahead, click the draw and profile view. Comes up with another splash window. Again, select your alignment. Profile view name. Again, this is just something that, comes down to when you show in Prospector, uh, on the profiles under the centerline alignment, centerline and waterway main, you can have multiple profiles on that alignment. So I don't know, I think I used A to A prime, station 0 plus 0, 0 to, in this case, it's 7 plus 34, I believe. You want to give it a description, you can. Profile view style. So this is pretty important if you've never hand drafted things. This is something that you learn when you hand draft, because you have to know exactly how long is my profile. In this case, it's 734 feet. So if I were to take a horizontal grid, which is, horizontal 10 foot, in this case, and a vertical, say 2, it's saying that horizontally, every inch is basically 100 feet. Okay? So in that case, would I have enough paper to do 10-foot long? Would I have enough space to put in a horizontal scale of 10 if it's 700 feet long? That's basically saying that I need how many inches? 70 inches. And that's not the case. I don't have 70 inches. Most of these plotters go to 34 inches wide, 24 inches high, typically. So you have to keep that in mind. So now you go ahead and select the actual profile view style. So the style is the horizontal and vertical exaggeration, horizontal and vertical scales. So you have to keep in mind, okay, well, I have 700 feet of profile that I need to show as of right now. So will 20 scale work? Will 40 scale work? Or 10 scale work? You have to choose that. So most of the time what I do is recommend get out the engineering scale and place it right on a piece of paper and say, here's what 20 scale is going to look like if I got to go 700 and some feet. Here's 10 scale, what I have to go at 700 some feet. It's always good practice to do that, because when you go to set up your actual viewports and you do all this work and you set it at, say, horizontal 10, and you go in and actually do your viewports and it doesn't fit. And now you're back to square one. You put all this time and effort into drawing things and it never fits on there. So my recommendation is take an engineering scale, figure out what's going to fit on your layout. And it's always good practice to create those viewports right away and put them in your page setup, and then that way you know exactly what's going on. So in this case, I think I chose 20 and 4. And make sure you'll notice the grid. That's the one that we've adjusted. And if you go ahead and click the edit on that, it'll tell you, who it's created by or edited by, and the exaggeration, what it's actually doing as far as the graph, the grid, the title annotation. So again, this is telling me that the parent alignment is the actual title content. And then it's also going to label my horizontal at 20 and my vertical at 4. Horizontal axis. The bottom, here's the major, minor ticks, and all the different heights. And in the newer templates, you'll notice that I did a rotation of 90 degrees. We've got a lot of people asking if we could rotate that text 90 degrees in our templates, so I went ahead and did that. But if you want to go back to the horizontal, you could do that by just changing this to 0 But if you wanted to change this back to horizontal, you would just change this rotation back to 0 and change this offset so it would be closer to your grid. Vertical axis, your vertical axis, remember you have a left and a right. So whatever you do on your left, you want to do it for your right. In this case, we're doing the major tick details at 2 foot, minor at 0.2. Same on the left and right. Again, if you want to change this, go ahead and change that. That's fine. Most of the time, this is something that you can mess with to make it more user-friendly. But just keep in mind that, you don't want to put no lines on your profiles because sometimes it does get confusing. If you wanted to try to follow it with an engineering scale. So try to keep some lines in that profile. I know some people don't like to see that, but they are light enough where, they're not coming, through where it's losing your design. Display, there's all these different displays if you want to turn things on and off, and if you wanted to change, if you wanted to change something, you could, as far as the layer thickness or the color, because if everything's based off of the CTB file, so this specific color here is going to show a specific line weight. So if you wanted a smaller line weight, you can change the color. And the grays, again, it's by layer, and it's going to be a certain line weight. So just keep that in mind that you could change those. And you'll notice that, some of these things are turned off. So if you wanted to, turn some of these things on, you could. But if you notice something that you've done to that profile and it's not showing up, just come into your display and make sure that it's turned on. In a summary, it just gives you all the different information about the actual profile information, when it was created. You can go ahead and click OK. So now you can hit next, and you'll notice you can create the profile view whenever you want to, but we're just going through each one of these steps to show you that you can change them. Again, if you want to change this, we'll make this an even number. Same with the height. Usually I go a few feet below and above, and usually use even numbers. Hit next. It just gives you the display options again, kind of give you basically what is going to be shown if you want to draw it. So if you had multiple ones in your profile, this is what you're going to view. So if you had a profile of, say you had LiDAR in here and you just kind of wanted to compare it to what your existing survey was, how close, you can put LiDAR in here, you can draw it originally, but when it comes to designing, you can uncheck that and it won't draw it in your profile view. So if you had 3 different surfaces, you can choose which ones you want to actually have drawn in here. Again, you can change the styles. So you still have plenty of options in here as it goes through. Again, your band sets, and then your cut and fills, and then finally go ahead and create profile view. And it's asking me where I want to put this. So you don't want to put it here, obviously. Just start somewhere on that right-hand side or left-hand side, whatever you want to do. Right now, it's drawn in 20 scale, but really I want to show it, well, my view right now is in 40 scale, so I want to show it in 20 scale, what it actually will look like when I go to plot this out in a viewport. So that's what it's actually going to show up in my viewport. So I'll just go to plan view details real quick. Here I got a viewport made. Double click my mouse wheel. That'll zoom extents, and I can zoom in on this, change this to 20 scale. That 20 scale will not fit. So it's good that I showed this, because now you kind of get an idea what a 20 scale horizontal, because it's always going to be a horizontal scale, is not going to fit on a 34-inch long drawing. So a couple ways of doing that. We can double click in here. We can select that profile, right click, profile view properties, go to your information, and we can go ahead and change it on the fly. 40 and 2, grid, hit apply, and you'll notice that it changed it, but now I need to change this to 40 scale, and you'll notice horizontally it does fit. So horizontally it fits, and now vertically it fits. I can move this to where I need it to be. Go ahead and lock that viewport. And now it's set at that 40 scale. It matches my horizontal scale here. That's the key, that the horizontal scale matches the scale of the viewport. So before you do any work, say you don't want the vertical scale exaggeration to be 2. Again, double click in there, right click, profile view properties, and I want to change that to 4, because it's just too high. I don't want it that high in my drawing. So now it just shrinks that down. I can move this. Still locked. So now I've just adjusted that on the fly. That's just a preference that I use. I do everything in Paperspace, double click and change my scaling that way. And then that way, if I have multiple profiles or cross sections, I'm setting everything up right on Paperspace, so I know that it's going to fit before I actually start doing any type of drafting in my profiles. So now we'll go over profile styles. So profile view properties, that's the grid, elevation, stations, that's the view properties. The other one is the style. So the style is what we just went through when you create the actual style of the profile view. So if you select that, it's telling you the style is profile view style horizontal 40, vertical 4, and then you can go through all these and change the graph, the grid, the title, whatever you want to on this, you can go ahead and change. So the grid, you can change clips. So if you wanted to, clip your actual grid, you could do that. So based off of what I have selected here, clip vertical and horizontal grid, it'll clip my existing ground based off of my grid if I wanted to clip it. Some features, people might want to use. Title annotation, again, coming back to the template settings, shown here, the parent alignment is shown here under the title. So you want to make sure that that parent alignment is the title of your profile. So in this case, we called it Centered on a Waterway Main. That was our alignment name. If you wanted to adjust any of this stuff, you could. Horizontal axis, 40 foot, showing 40-foot scale on the horizontal. The interval, every 10 foot, you'll notice that there's a tick mark, this gray line. So 10, 20, 30, 40. This is just a major. So this is the major ticks, the red. The minor ticks are 10, which are the gray. If you wanted to adjust that, you could. And again, the rotation and the newer templates are going to be rotated at 90 degrees with an offset. So if you wanted to put it back to horizontal, you could. Vertical axes, you're looking at the interval here is 1 foot. And then the tick interval is 0.2. In between there, if you wanted to change those, you could. The newer templates have changed the interval of the vertical axis to 2 foot instead of 1 foot. And if you see here the tick and label start elevation, if you have that checked, it's going to label that start elevation at 0 plus 0. Same way with this one, tick and label start elevation, 0 plus 0. If I had this unchecked, it's going to start here at 0 plus 40. Same way with your vertical axis. If you uncheck this, it's not going to start at 92, it's going to start at 94. Display, again, you can turn things on and off, and then a summary just goes over your profile view styles. In Prospector, you'll notice that you'll have your alignment, and then you'll center line alignment, and then again, here's your alignment name, so center line of waterway main, and then you'll have your different profiles and then profile views. So we have one profile, center line of waterway main, existing ground, and then this is the view, A to A prime, center line of waterway. So profile labels, when you create a layout profile, you can automatically label it using the label styles you specify in the create profile, draw a new dialog box. For other types of profiles, you can add labels using the edit labels command. We'll go over this real quick because there's a lot of labels that you can do on profiles, but the one that I use is going in there and just adding labels. So if it's for like a waterway, or if you just want typical elevations and stations, that's usually what I use the profile view labels for. But you can create and edit styles of your profile view labels in the label style composer. So one tip is to label points on a feature line projected into a profile view. Use station, elevation, or depth labels. They're the main ones that we use. Profile view bands, you can do the profile view bands based off of proposed elevation, existing elevation. I don't get into the profile bands in this video, but you do have the option of putting those in there. And they are nice features, so if you want to mess around with those, you could. So to add a label, there's a couple different ways of doing that. The way that I go about doing it is under the Annotate tab, under Add Labels, select your profile view, Add Profile View Labels. It'll bring up a box, Add Labels, Feature, Profile View, the label type, Station Elevation, and then Station Elevation Label Style. So you can have vertical above, vertical below, horizontal above, horizontal below, however you want to do it. You can do the different styles, or you can choose the different styles that you want to do. There's many different styles in here. And then go ahead and hit add. And then what you're going to do is just going to select the area that you want to label. One, you can type in the station. So if you typed in 100, and then you just drag your line up to the elevation of where 100 is, you can put that label on there. So this is good for staking things out every 100 foot for a waterway, or if you wanted to show specific grade breaks, you can do these labels. Proposed features on a profile. So once you have your existing profile completed, you can add proposed features. If you just add polylines, so if it's not connected to that specific profile, keep in mind if you were to change any type of scaling or anything like that, that polyline will not change with that profile. The correct way to add lines to your profile is by using the profile creation tool, because that actually links it to that specific profile. That's my recommendation. So if you were to do a profile of a waterway, existing waterway, and then you wanted to do a proposed waterway, I would draw my proposed waterway using the profile creation tool and call it proposed waterway, and it would have that drawn on there. So if I had to change my scales, it'll automatically adjust my scales of my my proposed waterway bottom. So in this example, you'll see how to use the profile creation tools. If you go to the Home tab, Profile Creation Tools, select which profile you want to use the tools on. So select the profile, and then it'll come up with another window, tells you which alignment, Then you're going to name your proposed line. So in this case, we're going to call it centerline proposed waterway bottom. Then in the general tab, it asks you the same prompts as if you were when you were creating your profile originally. So in this case, profile style would be future ground versus the one that we created it in the beginning was existing ground. Profile layer, cross-section profile, future ground. You can change that. And then the profile label set, so waterway. And we'll go over this in Civil 3D, but you can change those the way they look, the actual label set if you want to. So in this case, it gives you the slope and the station, and I believe the elevation at the different changes. Go ahead and click OK. So here's your profile layout tools. This is where you draw everything in. This just goes over what those profile layout tools are associated with. It's kind of similar to the tools when we were drawing the alignment, where you have some tangents, curve settings, things like that. So it's just different ways of drawing your polyline. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and select Insert PVI, and that's this little guy here. Then I'm going to draw in my points of where my proposed waterway is. And then you'll notice once I complete that, it actually labels it waterway. Here's my station, my elevation, station elevation, and in between those 2 points, it gives me a slope. So that's my waterway label style that's shown here. So it gives me my waterway, station, elevation, and then my slope in between those 2 points. So again, here's the labels showing the station, elevation, and slope. And here's the proposed waterway bottom drawn. So even on your existing ground, when you go to draw, say you're trying to figure out what that existing ground slope is, you can label that too, also on the existing ground. That's just a label style that you can select for your existing ground. And this is what it would show like using the CTP file. So I'll go ahead and go through the steps we just went through in CAD. All right, so I did talk a little bit about maybe adding a label for your existing ground. If you want to, you can select that. Again, under Annotate, under Add Labels, Profile View, add Profile View Labels, Profile View. You can do Station Elevation, Depth, do it above, below, and then if you wanted a marker style, you could do that. Another way, if you select on that actual original ground, if you select on that, you can right click, edit labels. So you can do grade breaks in between all those. Go ahead and click add. So you want to make sure you add it, and you can do it to a specific station, however you want to do it, but there are some options that you can do with that. So if you wanted to adjust this, you can say station and elevation above, waterway station above and below. So in this case, we'll just do it below, click OK, click apply, and you'll notice at every elevation within that's set, so that's a label set. So if you select this label set, so this is giving you grade breaks, start and end station, so you want it the entire way. You want to just do it at every grade break. So this is another one, above. So if I click above, you'll see it go above. I want to delete that one. That goes above. So if I wanted to change this, instead of being a grade break, I can delete this. And I want to do lines at percent. I could do percent. I could click add. If I want to do grade percent, I click add, click apply, and you'll notice that there's all these different grade breaks in between there. So you can see all the different percentages. So you do have some options that you can change in here for grade breaks, things like that. Major stations. You can add just the major station, station elevation. So if you wanted to do it at every 50 foot, you can apply that. So every 50 foot, it's going to label station elevation at every 50 foot. Or maybe you want to do it every 100 feet, you can do that. And this is just a style. Again, station elevation perpendicular. And you can do a fixed elevation above and below. So there's a lot of options that you can do with the labeling on this. I'm just going to delete this labeling out, but I just wanted to go over that you can label your existing ground. Now, one thing I will tell you, as far as doing waterways and things like that, again, we're going to go over putting in a proposed waterway bottom. So the first step you want to do on your home tab, under profile creation tools, select your profile, centerline and waterway main, and maybe we want to show the percentage of, an average percentage of that existing ground to design our waterway. So we can do centerline, waterway, existing. Future ground, we're just going to call it original, we'll just say waterway channel. We can do original ground, which is fine, or we can change that layer to whatever we want. Embankment for now, just so it shows up. Profile label set, waterway. This is however you want to do it is fine. Waterway is going to give you your percent and your elevation. Click OK. So profile layout tools. Go ahead and select this one. So if this is my start of my waterway, and this is just my, average slopes going, along my existing ground. All I'm doing is creating a line here just to show what my existing ground slopes are. So when I go to design my waterway, I could say, okay, well, from this station to that station, I'm at 3.3%. This station to that station, I'm at this percent. It just gives you an idea of what that existing ground is, but you have the option there to do that. So I just wanted to put that out there. When you're designing a waterway, you have the option to create those labels and show your existing ground for creating that waterway. I'll go ahead and click that and I'll delete it. Again, now we want to create our waterway bottom. Profile creation tools, select your profile, and we're just going to call this center line, proposed waterway main. Profile style, so we can say future ground on this one. And we'll just call this waterway. Again, click OK. Brings up the profile layout tools. Centerline and proposed waterway main is what we're working on. And say this is going to be a rock outlet, so that's where it's going to tie in. I'm going to come up here. And then we're going to tie in here. So this shows me that at station 0 plus 49, this is my elevation. To 200, this is my elevation, 1.3%. So it gives you a nice labeling feature when you use this profile layout creation tools. If I were to just to draw in a profile, or polyline, I'm sorry, and say, if I'm in profile, say, excavation cross section, and I wanted to draw that in here, and I'll just put it just above this, just so you can kind of see what happens when I change the scale. So that's just a polyline drawn in. It's not associated with this profile whatsoever. So if I were to move this profile, you'll notice that this goes with the profile because it's associated with that profile, where that polyline stayed where it was. In labeling, you're not able to label this like you would with an actual profile. So basically, this is showing my profile main. So if I right click, I can go to properties on that, and I can change it there too. Design criteria, I can lock it. But again, if I right click on my profile, use styles, again, I can change this, my vertical axis, horizontal axis. So if I want to see, if I don't want to show this profile on here, if I go up to profile, create surface profile, I'm under my centerline waterway main. That's the only one that I have. And you'll notice I have existing ground, but I also have a profile list here that shows in here, that one that I created. So if I don't want that to show, or if I want to change my style, I could do that here. So if you see on my create profile from surface, you'll notice that there's two things shown in that profile: waterway main existing ground and centerline of proposed waterway main. That's what that says, my proposed waterway main. So that quickly goes over your profile. Oh, I did want to show you. So now that you have your profile drawn, and for example, again, if I go on my plan view style or plan view, my viewport, and say, oh man, I want to change this to vertical 2. So now that you have this drawn and you say, oh, I want to change this to, I don't know, the vertical to 2, unlock your viewport, and now you select in your viewport here, profile view properties, and go to your information, and you want to change this to 2. Click apply. You'll notice now that profile that I created stays with the profile, versus this is the polyline that I created that does not move. So just keep in mind that if you're drawing anything in profile view or on your profile and you want it to be attached to that profile, just make sure you use your profile creation tools. That's really the biggest takeaway on this. If you just do a polyline, that's fine when you're designing, something up. Say, for example, if you're doing a pipe job and you're just drawing polylines, as long as you know that that profile is going to stay in that exact scale, then you're fine drawing in polylines. So I can't tell you enough to start with a viewport of all your different profiles, cross sections, and things, so you know exactly what you're drawing those in that specific scale. That way, if you were to draw a profile and you started drawing polylines, that way you know it's going to stay at that scale. You don't have to. So now we'll go ahead and go over sample lines. Sample lines are line segments placed along an alignment, usually perpendicular to the alignment path and at regular intervals. Sample line represents the location and orientation of surface cross sections that can be studied through section views. So you have to have an alignment in order to do this. You can also locate sample lines within the Prospector tab of Tool Space. So you want to go ahead under Home, under Sample Lines, go ahead and select the alignment that you want to create your sample lines from. Once you select your alignment, the Create Sample Line group will appear. You can choose what surfaces are displayed in those section views. So it's the same type of process of doing profile views. Now we're just doing section views. You create what they call a sample line group. So we can just call this center line of waterway main. And then you can select which ones you actually want to have shown here. So if you want to have your existing ground shown only, you can have that. But go ahead and just select them all. So when you do a proposed or an as-built drawing and you have those surfaces completed, it'll show in your cross sections. The sample line styles, sample line, leave that default. Sample line label station, leave that as station. And then the sample line layer, it's plan sample. That's the layer to put on. So now you can select a location anywhere in alignment that you want to create a cross section, or you can enter a specific station, or you can select one along the alignment. In this case, you have a little sample line tools box that pops up. It's saying sample line raw station. Center line of waterway main is the alignment name. And then you'll see a little dialog box here. This is the station, or you can just type in, whatever station you want, if it's 600, whatever. Once you select that station, it's going to ask you for the left swath. This is the length from the center line of the alignment. You can type in the length, so it's an even length, or you can, draw a length out to where you want. The left and right swaths are determined by the direction of the way the alignment was drawn, and you as the user, when looking towards the direction of the alignment. So whatever way you're looking, so this is, you're looking this way towards alignment. This is the right swath, this is the left swath. So in this case, the default is 50, so you can hit enter, or if you wanted it smaller, or if you wanted it longer, you can go ahead and, select, type in whatever you want. Or select, on the screen itself, the specific location. You can do that also. This is what the sample line will look like. So in order to show this, you have to do a section view, just like you did a profile view. So section views, same thing. Create a section view to display an existing ground section using sample lines that cut across a horizontal alignment. Sample lines must be created prior to creating a section view, and section views can display existing ground surfaces, corridor sections, and pipe sections. Each section view must be linked to an alignment. The section view displays new or existing sections. Sections can be created without displaying them on a section view. When you create a section view for an alignment, the complete list of sections for the alignment is displayed. Choose which sections to include in the section view. You can change the display style of a section view and add labels and also bands. So you'll see in the home page, again, under sample lines, you'll see section views, create section views, or you can do create multiple, but in this case, we're just going to go one since we only have one that we made. General, the location, name, layer, and style, the new section view, offset range, you can change the width, elevation range, same thing, data bands, same thing. So here we are again with this window, section view, the general, here's the alignment, the sample line, the parent name, so parent alignment, and the section view station. So whatever the alignment name is, so in this case, center line of waterway main, and then it's going to have the section view station. Sample line group name, center line of waterway main, we've created that originally. And then this is the original grant, and then this is the style. So there's two styles that we've created with grid on them. I think it was horizontal 10, vertical 2, and then I think it's horizontal 20, vertical 4, if I'm not mistaken. Again, this is the offset range. So if you want to go beyond the 50-foot or whatever swath that you selected past your center line, you can do that, or you can go right to the 50-foot, which is automatic. Elevation range, you can adjust that again. Section display options, again, drawing your existing, proposed, and as-built. You can clip the grid if you want to. You can have labels on that. Many options on here. And again, band sets. In this case, we're not going to show any. Again, select where you want to put these. And once you put that in, it shows here that I went out to 80 foot, even though I selected 50 foot. Here's my station, and here's my scale based off of that center line of waterway main. And then this is just showing it in the CTB file. Section view labels. Again, select the section view that you want to label. In this case, I've created a parabolic shape of, we're calling this a proposed waterway. Go ahead and select your cross-section view, and it'll go up to your top ribbon, and it'll ask for, it'll come up with a contextual ribbon, add view labels, offset elevation, and what it does is create offset elevation labels for section views. Select those different locations that you want, and then it's going to label those elevations with the station and the elevation. That's what it will look like with the CTB file. And in order to do the cross-section views, you have to create a sample line. To create a sample line, go ahead up on the Home tab under Sample Lines, select Sample Lines, and then select the line that you want to create your sample line from. And in this case, as we drag down along that sample line, it tells us stations. So we'll just go ahead and we'll select this station here. Left click, and then it gives left swath of 50, hit enter, right swath of 50, enter. So you'll see that it's created that sample line at that station. Now, if we wanted to do it at a specific station, say 400, you could type in 400. And then say we want to do 60 foot, and we want to do 60 foot. Hit enter. Enter to complete the command. So you'll notice that it's created the sample lines. That's station 400, and this is at station 622. Now that we have our sample lines drawn, now we need to create section views. And in this case, I'm just going to do a single section view for right now. It's under center line of waterway main. And there's two to choose from. I'll go ahead and pick the 400 for now. And then go ahead and select your view style. We'll do the grid of a horizontal 10, vertical 2. We went 60 and 60 on this one, so we'll just do another 20 foot beyond that, so negative 80 and 80. And it's saying minimum is 103, maximum is 107, so we'll just go a foot below and a foot above, make them even numbers. Keep this the same, no data bands, create section view, and again, select an area where you'd like to put that away from your plan view. And you'll notice this is set to horizontal 10, so it's showing your cross-section view that way. Regen, and then they'll give you the original ground with the dashed line. Now, if I want to do multiple section views, you do automatic, we can do the 10 again, vertical 2, waterway main. So anything that's under that group name will create that view. I just go ahead and select the 11 by 17, no grid lines. Go ahead, hit draft, 11 by 17, no grid lines. Hit next, user specified, offset range. You can just keep that the way it is. Well, actually, you want to do, it varies. So one was set, I believe, at 50 and one was at 60. So if you wanted to keep them both the same and say we wanted to do 80 for both of them, we can do 80. And then the height varies also, so you can get a specific height of what you want. So if it's 15 foot, we can just say 20 foot. Next, next, create section views, and it's just going to ask you where do you want to put them. And so now, you need to move them. So now it's created two section views kind of in line with each other. So that's two ways of doing it. Again, if you select on this view, it'll give you properties, the information, the offsets, so elevation. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to do it automatic and say I only want to do the minimum at 106 and the maximum at, I don't know, 112. Click apply, and you'll notice it'll adjust that. Now the same way with this one, section view properties, say I want to go higher on this one. So the maximum is 115. Say I want to go 120. Apply. You'll notice that it goes into the other profile, so you have to move this profile up, the cross section, I'm sorry, because it does go into it. But you have, options to move these around if you want to, but you can do all the cross sections at one time, and then they're done. So if you had existing ground, proposed ground, as built, they could all be shown on this specific cross section. So the cross sections are very similar to profiles as far as changing things and spacing and stuff like that. One thing to keep in mind is labeling your left looking downstream or right looking upstream, however you label it, but you want to make sure that you label the direction of how this cross section is drawn. So when someone is looking at it, they at least know that this is left looking downstream or left looking upstream, however it is. So just keep that in mind, when you're drawing on your cross sections and labeling them. Again, if you want to do any types of labels, you can select your cross section, you can add labels, you can do offset elevations. In this case, if I just want to do, at this specific point, and at this specific point, and at this specific point. So it's now giving me 3 different elevations shown here. And now I want to go ahead and create a parabolic shape of a proposed waterway. So again, if I wanted to label, say, my proposed ground, again, you can select on add view labels, offset elevation. So again, this is my proposed ground, elevation of my tie-in of my waterway. If you want to change this label, you can select that label and go to edit label style. And you can do horizontal left, horizontal right, or just do vertical above. Click OK. So now it shows the existing elevation above that. I know I have had some people ask me about this negative number. I don't know how to change that on the labeling. It doesn't show it on this side, but when you actually go to label things, everything on the left side is at negative. Just how it's done in Civil 3D. There's no way to change that I'm aware of. And just keep in mind that with the cross sections, unless it's through a corridor, you actually can't create a cross section that's associated with that specific section view. Like we did with profile view, we can create that specific profile that's associated with that specific profile view. Section view, you can't do that unless you're creating a corridor. So this is just a polyline that I created. So if I were to, change anything on this existing cross-section view, and I said this was at 100, you'll notice that all that did not move. So just keep that in mind. Now the labeling stays there. So I could actually take this and, grab that and move it to my labeling, and it'll adjust it. But as far as this staying with the cross section, it doesn't do it unless you create a corridor. So just keep that in mind. So just to go over what we talked about in the video over profiles and sections, you must have an alignment in order to draw a profile. There are different types of profiles: surface profiles and layout profiles. Also, a profile view must be created before the profile can be shown. A profile view is used to display profiles as graphed lines on a grid. A specific profile can be displayed in more than one profile view. Each profile view allows you to control what data is displayed. Profile labels are live linked to the profile, and profile view labels stay at the same place in the view even if a profile is changed. So profile labels will remain with the profile when changed. New profiles that are created will be added to all the existing profile views of that alignment. So also keep in mind that when you do any type of changes in a specific profile view style, that it'll actually change all the styles within that drawing. Sample line, the user sets the location of where they want to extract a section or a cross section and the width to extract. The sections or the cross section, surface, and alignments must exist before sections can be created. Sample lines are set up along an alignment in order to extract sections from the surfaces. In order to display sections, there must be a section view created, similarly to the profile view. Sample line groups are the holder for sample lines, sections or cross sections, and section views. The section views is displayed to display sections extracted at a specific sample line location. A specific section can be displayed in more than one section view. Section views can be created as a group or individually. Each section view allows you to control what data is displayed. Section labels are linked to the specific sections or the cross sections, and also the section view labels stay at the same place in the view even if a section is changed. In Tool Space, under the Prospector tab, the profiles, profile views, and sample line groups are found under the alignments. So if the scaling of a section view or profile view is changed, the labeling adjusts. Make sure that you label all of your alignments, profiles, profile views, your sample line groups in a manner that's easy to find, easy to navigate for yourself and for anyone that's opening up that drawing. So we'll now go over splitting profiles. So if you've created a profile that's a little bit too long or you can't fit a waterway on the page, then you can go ahead and split that profile. So the way that's done, if you go to Profile View, create multiple profile views. And what you're going to do is go ahead and click the Profile View style first. Select your alignment, of course, and select the Profile View style. So in this case, we're going to select 20 vertical 2. Go ahead and hit Next. The station range is 0 to 800. So this total length of my alignment is 800. But I want to split it halfway because I know it's not going to fit at that specific horizontal scale of 20 will not fit on the page, but I want it to be a horizontal scale to 20, vertical to 2. So I want to split it halfway. Go ahead and hit Next. Total height of profiles. So you can go ahead and just select the height. I like to match the heights next to each other. And then for top and bottom, instead of having one real high and one real low, but you don't have to do that. You can do it automatic. Go ahead and hit next. Specify the profile display options. So select the surfaces again. So in this one, we had an as-built existing, so we're just going to select the existing on this one. Band set, if you were to do that, same way with the profile hatch. So the multiple plot options, draw order, I do by rows. So gap between adjacent profile views, 50 units, and then maximum in a row is 4. And start at the lower left and move to the right. So this is a profile that's been split. This is a distance, 50 units between them. Same distance above, this way, height-wise. So it starts down at the bottom. This elevation is now this elevation, and it continues on up. So it's just an easy way of splitting those profiles. Now, if you want to have the profiles match up with elevations, you can change the profile view properties from the second profile. So if you select that specific profile, the second one, you can change your user specified height, so you can start at that elevation of the other select one next to it, and then that would be the elevation you want to basically start at. So select the minimum height off of first profile and go 2 foot above the highest elevation. So in this case, it just continues on with that elevation 2 foot above. Pretty straightforward, but it's confusing when you split these profiles. Now, when you're drawing, profile lines and things like that, you can continue that along that entire length, and it'll draw that line. So it continues that profile, if you will, as one length. So this is what it will look like in paper space. But we'll go ahead and show this in Civil 3D. So we're going to go ahead and split a profile that might be too long in the drawing. So profile view, create multiple profile views. So in this case, centered on orderway main. And we're going to do, say, 20 in vertical 2. Hit next. So this, we're going to do, we know the specified range is going to 734, but we want to change the length of each view of, say, we're going to 400 feet. Go ahead and hit next. Profile view height, we'll just specify 15 foot in this case. I don't know what the change in elevation is, but we'll use 15 foot. Hit next. So we have the proposed waterway and existing. So since we have both of those, we can put those on here and we can split them. So we'll show both of them. And then multiple plot options by rows. And we'll do 50 foot in between. Start at the lower left, create profile views, and I'm just going to select there. And you'll notice that it takes and splits those up. I did everything in one profile view here, but if it was too long, I could split that. Now, if I wanted to continue this elevation, this elevation basically starts at 102. I want to start this one at 102. That's where it's at here. So if I want to match those up, go into your profile view styles on this one, and elevation. So instead of starting at 102, I don't want to start at 102 here. So in this case, if this starts at 94, we want this one to start at 94. But we want to go above this, so it's 94 to 112. So if we right click on this, profile view properties, we're going to start this at 94 and go, you can keep that at 117, click apply, click OK, and now you'll notice that they match up. And if you wanted to cut this one off at 112, you could. For your maximum height, you don't have to go that high. So if I were to do any type of manipulation to this specific profile here, it's going to adjust everything dynamically along this one also. But notice that I don't have any labels on this one because these are separate profile views. But these are the actual, so if you notice, you can see next to each other that as I'm moving this, it's moving on the other side too. So my suggestion to you is if you did have a waterway and you needed to split it, I would do all your waterway work first as one long waterway, and then just come over here and create one and split it and then relabel everything. But you could do it this way too. I mean, when you draw up, if I were to take this and if I wanted to, for example, if I wanted to create profile creation tools and I wanted to call it center line of waterway main, and I wanted to say center line waterway bottom 2 future ground waterway, click OK. And now I'm going to select one here. Go to there, go to there, and there. Come across here and then grab this one, hit enter. And you'll notice that that's the new one that I've created. And you'll notice that it's also created on this one too. But you can do it either way. I know some people have had problems as far as labeling is concerned. Sometimes when you cross these profiles that have been split, sometimes it'll show on this side the labeling won't show on that side. Why, I'm not sure. The only suggestion that I have is that if you do everything on this one and then split it and then just label everything at once, you can do that. But that's a way of splitting your profiles. I know that's a lot of information. Profiles are basically, how we design everything. So it's very important that you learn what profiles are. One thing to take away from this training, when you do your profiles and cross sections and things like that, please make sure, as far as scaling is concerned, whatever this scale of your viewport is set at, so in this case it's set at 10, the horizontal scale of that actual cross-section profile needs to be set at that exact same horizontal elevation. So that needs to be set at 40, so this viewport needs to be set at 40. Whatever the horizontal elevation is set on your profile or cross-section, that's the viewport scale that needs to be set. And just keep in mind any style that has changed. So for example, if I'm using horizontal 40, vertical 4, if I were to change that and I had multiple profile views in that same style, it'll change all those styles that are set at horizontal 40 before. So just keep that in mind also. Another recommendation that I'll say, I always like to do my text on Paperspace, but in regards to any text on profiles and cross sections, since they are at a designated scale, meaning that they're going to be drawn at 40 scale, you can come into your view at 40 scale and you can do all your text in 40 scale and draw it right on your profile or your cross section. And that's going to stay with that profile and cross section. That's the only time I'll do any of my text in model space. Otherwise, all my text is done in paper space. So I hope everybody understands this, and I know it's a lot of information, but these are pretty important things that you need to know as far as profiles and cross sections. When we start getting into corridors for waterways, so when you create that corridor, it's going to draw your cross section based off of your subassembly and your design criteria from your subassembly. So there's a lot of things going on when we get into corridors, but this will kind of get you through it for now. And it's not a bad way of doing the waterway design, going through it this way. But the corridors and the subassemblies, that's more innovative, if you will, more dynamic, less drawing for you as the user. Basically, you're just putting in parameters and Civil 3D does the work for you if all your parameters are put in correctly. So another thing with alignments that I want to go over real quick is offset alignment. So I know I talked about it in the beginning of this presentation that if you're proposing the center line of waterway and then you have a center line of a ditch or an existing gully and you want to do that, if you want to do an offset alignment, if you select the alignment, you could do offset alignment, contextual where it comes up, and then you can do how many offsets on the left or right. Maybe if you want to do all multiple, but we'll do 15 on the left and 15 on the right. Alignment line, you could do however you want to do the labeling is fine. So now it's created additional alignment lines. So there's 3 alignment lines that are offsets. So now I can take those alignment lines, go to my profile, create surface profile, and you'll see left and right. So my center line of main, I can add my left and my right, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and create one on my left, existing ground. Go on profile view. We'll just do 20 and 2 for now. And the alignment's going to be that. Profile view name is, keep that all the same. We'll just do automatic. We'll just do this real quick. Creating profile view. So that's my center line of waterway main left 15-foot offset. I'll do the same thing. Profile, create surface profile, and then we'll do the right, existing ground. Go on profile view. We'll do 20 and 4. Next, let's keep all this, create profile view, and we'll put it up here. So you want to superimpose these 2 onto my main. So select the profile that you want to superimpose to, and it says select the source profile. So this is one source, destination, you can hit a start and end accuracy, just go ahead and click apply, click OK, and you'll notice if you select that, it's going to give you superimpose, center line of waterway main is that one. Here is the 10-foot offset. So if you want to change this into a different style so it shows up a little bit differently, you can. You can select the style on this. So the superimposed, this is the minus 15. So we can change that style to offset, click OK, hit apply, and it's just a wider spacing. So the offsets and the superimposed, that's two things I didn't go over in the PowerPoint presentation, but I did want to go over a little bit here, just to give you an idea that you can create superimposed elevations onto your existing main profile. But you just have to make sure that you create the profile view of that alignment that you want to superimpose onto your profile view. I know this is a lot of information, but it's very important that you get these straightened out correctly, because this is the work that needs to be shown for any of the kind of designs that we do. So it's very important that you understand how profile, cross-section, sample lines work. That's all for this training.